Yeah, she does. She's in the second row.
Second row?
Third from the black one, third from.
Dr. Allen.
Just so you know. You're welcome.
So I talked to her.
Do, 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 do. Hello, everyone. My name is Janine Donaldson. I'm the Executive Director of the Elyria YWCA, and we are doing business as the Lorain County Racial Equity Center. And it's that partnership with the League of Women Voters of the Oberlin area and the Metro Central NAACP, it's that partnership that is bringing this forum to you tonight. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that has. And that's a quote from Margaret Mead. We're inviting you all to this forum, and we've been very intentional that it is not a candidates night, so there won't be a lot of back and forth. It really will be where we can get some substantive information from our candidates. We're very blessed here in Elyria that we've got 4 people who are interested in becoming the next mayor for the city of Elyria. Let's give that some applause. Before I turn it over to Debbie Coco, who is the president of the League of Women Voters Oberlin area, I would just like to personally thank Brad Dickin and Daryl Tucker. Oops, Daryl, sorry. These guys, thank you. You know, we got to lighten this mood up. Sorry, Daryl. So I'm just so pleased that both of those agreed to do it. And the idea being that we, again, want substantive information, and we want folks that are not partisan. We want folks that, like all of you, care about democracy, and that's what brings us here today. So on behalf of the Elyria YWCA, and we have some of our board members here, I want to welcome you and come to the YWCA. We've changed, but we haven't changed. So thank you.
Hi, as Janine said, I'm Deb Coco, and I'm the current president of the League of Women Voters. We're currently calling ourselves of the Oberlin area, but we're in the process of changing our name to of Lorain County because we are the only league in Lorain County. And all of a sudden, many people seem to be interested in joining the league to try to figure things out in a nonpartisan way. For those of you who do not know, the league is a nonpartisan good government organization. And our sole purpose is to protect and empower voters and expand voting rights and ensure that everyone is represented in our democracy. It's not so easy nowadays. The League does not support or oppose any candidate or party. Our mission is to empower you, the citizens and the voters, to defend our democracy through your voice and your ballot and your choice. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are an important part of our mission because we want all communities in the county to have a voice. League members and allies are part of this broad-based grassroots organization represented here in Lorain County, and if you're interested in joining us, we would welcome you. And membership is open to everyone, not just women, even though that's in our name. First off, I'd like to thank our moderators who are helping to facilitate this evening. So thank you, Brad and Daryl. I remembered both of your names. I'd also like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in this important event. This evening will run as follows. After these introductory remarks, the candidates will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. They will be called alphabetically. We're trying to be as fair as we possibly can. We have a woman sitting in the front row who has a sign, and she will hold up signs for candidates to know when they're getting close to the end of 2 minutes, and then she will hold up a stop sign, which will indicate that their time is up. And we would appreciate it if you wrap up quickly at that point. There will be a 30-minute period where our moderators will ask questions of the candidates. And these questions were formulated by the Planning Committee and by students of the Urban League. The Urban League was a partner in pulling this together. This will be followed by a 30-minute period where the moderators will select questions from those you are writing. We have volunteers who are going to come around and collect your cards, and we will cull them for duplication and bring them up to the moderators, and they will choose from those cards. Candidates will be given 90 seconds to answer each of the questions. Again, Ruth will hold up the signs. Please pay attention. At the end of this, we will ask the candidates to give a 2-minute closing statement. These statements will be given in reverse alphabetical order, again, to be as fair as possible. We will have someone close the program, Claudia Jones from Metro Central NAACP, and then we will all move to the lobby for a brief social where you can approach each candidate and talk with them. I want, before I close, for everyone to know about the new Ohio voter ID law. This past August special election, many voters showed up and were not able to vote. They were not able to vote because they had an expired driver's license or they didn't have the proper voter ID. They were told to vote provisionally. Many of these provisional ballots were thrown out because the cure time to fix your ballot was shortened in this new law. Also, many absentee ballots were thrown out because the return of absentee ballots has been shortened. So if you are planning to vote in person, there's a form out on our table that you can look at all the photo ID requirements. But know that the only accepted IDs are unexpired IDs, and they are driver's license, photo state IDs distributed by the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Also, for new drivers, they're the new interim IDs. You can also vote with a military ID, but remember that only a national U.S. veterans card is acceptable. If you have a local veterans card with your photograph, it does not qualify. If you have an Ohio National Guard ID, it does qualify. Or a U.S. passport or passport card. We used to be able to use utility bills and other forms of ID, and none of those are acceptable any longer, so know that they are not there. One important item for people to remember: if you have an unexpired driver's license, unexpired is the critical word, but you have moved and your address has changed, you need to have a registration change for your home address, but you do not need a new photo ID. That photo ID is still good until the expiration date. So check and make sure that your photo IDs are unexpired, and if you have moved or changed location, update your voter registration. And finally, because we are trying to educate voters about what's at stake, I'd like to draw your attention to a handout that we had at the back table about a Lorain County Issues Night. A very important issue is on the ballot. It is called Issue 20, and it will change the way in which we govern our county from a 3-county commissioner system to a 7-district system. And it's something that we all need to educate ourselves about before making a choice. That event will be October 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Elyria Lorain County Racial Equity Center, and I hope those of you that are interested will come and help inform your vote. Remember, voting is not a privilege. It is a right that each of us has and each of us can express. So I hope you enjoy the night, and I will now turn it over. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get started with the opening statements. Mr. Brubaker, you are up first.
Is it okay to stand?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event. My name is Kevin Brubaker. I'm the Democrat candidate for mayor of the city of Elyria. I want to thank our organizations tonight, the Metro NAACP, our League of Women Voters, and our Lorain County Racial Equity Center, as well as our moderators, Mr. Dickin from the Chronicle-Telegram, Mr. Tucker from the Lorain Morning Journal. I've been a resident of the city of Elyria for my entire life. Graduated from here at Elyria High School in 1985, graduated from Appalachian Bible College in 1991 with a degree in youth ministries and family counseling. I'm married to my wife 30 years. We have one son, Cameron. I have 14 years of experience in government work. That government work includes multi-million-dollar budgets, city operations, grant writing, and working with residents and businesses throughout the city of Elyria to see their goals and dreams sought. I'm interested in being the mayor of Elyria because I have a passion to see Elyria prosper and grow. I believe that I have the right leadership skills. I believe I have the right mindset. I have the right collaborations with our county officials, our local officials, and our business partners here in the city of Elyria. My plan is to focus on 3 key points: economic development, public safety, and financial transparency. And working together, we can be able to help our residents see the vision that they and I would like to see for the city of Elyria. I will serve all residents with honesty, integrity, and fairly to make sure that we're able to bring business and families as a destination point to the city of Elyria. Again, thank you for this evening and look forward to this night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Mr. Grace.
Good evening, everyone, and I also wish to thank the sponsors of this evening for bringing us all together, and my fellow candidates here, and especially you, the audience, and those watching online through the Chronicle's website here. My name is Bill Grace. I formerly served as mayor of Elyria for 12 years, 3 terms. I was mayor for 12 years, and I've been out of office for 12 years. And what's brought me into this race speaks to the question of why are we in this race. My key point to make is that Elyria is in trouble. We're getting, as a community, we're getting older and poorer, and we're not keeping up with the quality of the city that made Elyria great in years past. In years past, we made major investments in our city. We built Elyria Memorial Hospital, the first high school west of the Allegheny Mountains. We went to Lake Erie for our water. Cascade was a magnificent park that people came from all over Ohio to enjoy. And those attributes made Elyria a great city. We've not kept up with those attributes. And in the meantime, we've been losing families and companies. It's become all the more consequential in recent years. The foundation of my candidacy is that we need to dramatically, significantly improve the quality of living and working in Elyria. I have a great deal of information on my website that I'll reference. I hope to cover as much territory as we can here this evening in the form of this forum. But if you take anything away from the core of my candidacy, it's that we need to substantially invest in the quality of Elyria. We need to do it dramatically, and we need to do so in a hurry. Thank you.
Dr. Gobil.
Since they set a precedence of standing, I'll stand also. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight to the Mayoral Forum. I'd like to thank our moderators and also our hosts. I'm here tonight. I did not grow up in Elyria. I do not have roots that go really deep in this area. However, I have lived all over the country, and I know what it's like to live in different places, and I know how fast a city can grow. Now, I come to you with a lot of experience in operations and efficiencies, and I've worked all over the world improving companies, improving global companies. I've had jobs where one particular job was for Stanley, not the one we have here, but in Rhode Island. I was responsible for 12 plants in 6 countries that spoke 5 different languages. We're in multiple time zones all over the world. Now, that was a big job. The city of Elyria, you're all in one time zone. It's fine with me. It's a whole lot easier to schedule a conference call. So I just want you to know that I will apply my experience and my skills to rapid growth within the city of Elyria. So I want you to know that I am capable of changing companies within 6 months. I can do wonders for Elyria. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goodwill. Mayor Frank Whitfield.
Good evening. Increased our police force, retention bonuses for police, body cameras, dash cameras, the largest police department grant in the city's history, expanded the fire department, new radio system, charging stations, too many orange barrels, I know. Over $4 million in grants to police and parks, 2 levies passed, 1 I led, largest carryover in the past 30 years, 5 union contracts negotiated, 300 free bikes distributed, 200 people trained in digital literacy, creation of the We Care initiative, suspended water shutoffs during the pandemic, coordinated child care providers, received an award for coordinating child care providers, created 2 new economic development programs, led to the demolition and redevelopment of sites downtown, created Third Thursday, created a community development corporation, stopped job loss, facilitated growth of legacy companies like Crane, Ridge Tool, created a vision for Midway Mall, facilitated a zoning overlay for Midway Mall, facilitated mall single ownership, creating a resolving loan fund, creating an active transportation plan. There's so many things to list here, but what really at the heart of it is these things really don't matter. These accomplishments are things that happened in the past. Your decision today is who can move the city forward. Who's going to put people over politics? And I'm so looking forward to seeing what my fellow candidates have to say tonight. I've had the pleasure of working with some of them. And I think the question of the hour is, who's going to put people over politics? And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. That's why I'm asking for your support, because we're right on the brink of that sort of transformational change that Mayor Grace was alluding to. We're right on the brink of it, and I believe I'm the right leader to bring us together across party lines, across ages, across races, and I think I've proven that to you in the last 4 years, and I look forward to discussing that more. Thank you. And thank you to the moderators, League of Women Voters, and Elyria YWCA. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get started with the questions. Once again, we're going to be going, I think we're going to do this one in reverse alphabetical order, and then we'll kind of bounce back and forth between the two. First off, what is your definition of equity, and what would it look like in your administration? Additionally, will you continue to support the city's racism as a public health crisis resolution? We're going to start with you, Mayor Whitfield.
Yes. So thank you for the question. And if those who didn't hear, the question was, how do I define equity, and how is that played out in the city of Elyria? And I think to start things off, I want to clarify the difference between equality and equity. And the first challenge we had within the city was around equality. When I got there, and I think it's a pattern inside of the city that we've been trying to address, that not all employees felt like they had an equal opportunity. If you knew the right people, you got promoted. If you're in the right clique, you got opportunities. And I think I see that sometimes play out in our city as well, that if you're connected to the right folks, that you get those opportunities. And equity is about making sure everyone gets what they need. And so our administration has not only prioritized that from the standpoint of we have left no one behind. During the pandemic, we knew that seniors were closed in their homes and were afraid to leave their homes due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We stood up a program called We Care, made sure that their voice was elevated. We've made sure our young people haven't been left behind. We've made sure those small businesses that often get forgotten on Taylor Street, that those folks weren't being left behind. So that's been a part of our fabric. That's what I did prior to being mayor. That's what I've been doing since I've been mayor. And we've created a DEI committee. I'm proud that we got that instituted within the city. So now our employees now have more sense of opportunity. Again, it's not about who you can cozy up with at the city. It's about if you work hard, you develop your skills, you can get opportunity. We've done diversity training with all our supervisors to try to make them better leaders, and I've just tried to exemplify that as the leader of the city. I think that many of you have seen me in places where you've been surprised. You know, you've seen me in places that may have been forgotten before, but to me it's because of that equity lens that I look at as a city to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind. Thank you.
Dr. Goodale.
That was a very good answer to that question. I want to tell you that I treat everyone the same. Everyone that comes to my home, everyone that needs help with a pet. I do a lot of help with pets, and anyone that needs a meal, everyone is welcome at my home. That's how I treat people. Anyone that asks me for help, that's how I treat people. I help them. My husband used to tell me that that was one of my greatest faults, because I would help people until it hurt. And so that's how I treat equity as well, is anyone that's going to need help, you would have a direct line to my office, and anyone that needs an extra hand, you're going to have that kind of help. So I would like to tell you that I am committed to having every single person within our city know that they can come to me should they need any kind of help. Thank you.
Many of the most challenging aspects of equity are hard to pin them down, but many things are very empirical. Owner occupancy of dwellings, employment, income earnings. Many of these things are tracked on a national level. They're not tracked as much, a little bit through the census on a municipal level in the city of, as the city is concerned. But most of these issues we're most acquainted with on a national level. I would point out that as mayor of the city, it's part of our responsibility as mayors, Mayor Whitfield has come to understand, and other mayors, you have a great deal of communication contacts through the community. And the mayors provides a great opportunity as being a conduit and an advocate. I spent a great deal of time, and would say this going forward, is having strong relationships among various constituencies in the city. The clergy is chief among them. Many people find it more comfortable to go to their clergy, their pastor, to speak about their challenges. And having a relationship with the clergy, the mayor can help introduce them to resources that they may not otherwise be aware of. But the mayor is, through the position of mayor, has the greatest opportunity to be a facilitator and an advocate for the things that come to be. As it relates, one of the things that most comes into play as the mayor in the city is in hiring practices. So, the biggest thing we can do in that regard is to make sure all the constituencies and equities are being recognized for employment opportunities. So that adds to it as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Equity has been a part of my life for pretty much the entire 25 years that I coached baseball and athletics throughout the city of Elyria. Equity is very important to the young people in our community. Working with young folks at Little League East, when I was the president there and a coach there, we had young people from all sides of town that didn't quite have the same skill set or the financial skill set to participate in everything else that was going on. So I made it a priority at Little League East that we would provide every child, every baseball player, every softball player an opportunity to be a part of Little League Baseball. Whether they had the skill set, we would work a little bit more with them to provide that equity to them. Some kids were a little better, some kids needed a little bit of help. When we get into the equity side of things of city government, I was involved with Mayor Whitfield when we brought the DEI program on and worked alongside with him on equity and helping with our employment, working with our city employees, and following up with them to make sure that the employees that did not have the skill set to move into a different position had the opportunity to learn that skill set across the board. When you talk about racism being a public health crisis, it absolutely is. When the travesty of George Floyd happened a few years ago, and we saw it in our own city, racism is alive in our city. People don't want to acknowledge that, but it is. And we have to deal with that straight up and face to face and address it so that it does not hamper our city and not allow our young people and our seniors and our businesses to be able to not have the opportunity to hire anybody that they want to hire. So racism, the public health crisis, I absolutely would continue to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Guns and violence are a continuing problem in this town, well, for that matter, across the entire country. What programs or avenues would you use to address this difficult issue? We'll start with you, Mr. Brubaker.
I apologize, I did not catch the first part of that question, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, guns and violence are a continuing problem in this country. What programs and avenues would you use to address this difficult issue?
Well, gun violence across the country and here in Elyria is certainly a problem. And how I would address that is continue to work with the Elyria Police Department, which I've done over the last 14 years, to make sure that they have the efficiencies, they have the training, they have the skill set in order to address the gun violence that's going on. We need to get guns off the streets. I mean, that's the bottom line. Folks are getting guns very easily. Our police department can take guns away from the folks and they get right back out on the streets again. So the gun violence is huge. It obviously has metastasized over the last number of years. People are more angry. People are going away from when I was growing up and you got into a little brawl out in the schoolyard to now young people and adults are pulling guns and shooting each other. So programs that I would look to bring and continue is we have a very strong police department. We have a very strong detective bureau. We have the opportunity to reinstall or reinvigorate our task force and giving our police department the tools and giving our police department the opportunities to address gun violence in our city. Thank you.
I would take a different approach than the ordinary, which is programs like buying back guns and some of the many typical things you might hear in a national conversation. I would speak to it, that it speaks to the core of our community and that we have a considerable amount of poverty in Elyria that we did not used to have. You know, our neighboring communities, of which many families and companies leave Elyria to go to, their poverty rate, North Ridgeville, Avon, Sheffield, is around 5%. The poverty rate in Elyria is 21%. The youth poverty rate in those communities is around 6%, about the same as their community average as a whole. The youth poverty rate in Elyria is 31%. And the poverty rate in Elyria City School District is 61%. I would argue that the biggest reason that people turn to guns is they don't understand other opportunities, employment opportunities specifically. We need, as from municipal government, but specifically the bully pulpit of the mayor, I'm not running for school board, but the mayor needs to help the schools be as effective as they can to turn these numbers around so that we have our children grow up with greater opportunities to be more successful, that it attracts people of greater means to come into Elyria, to stay in Elyria, those that are educated, and the companies come here and stay here to provide those opportunities. I would say that at the core, to wrap up, at the core of the gun violence is people's perceived opportunities or lack thereof, and we need to do our very best to create as much opportunity for the youth of our community as possible.
In my experience with operational excellence, one of the tools that we use is a failure modes and effects analysis. We really look at the root cause of why something exists. What are the root causes for gun violence? What is the root cause for gun violence in Ohio? And Bill has touched on a lot of those things, but I want to tell you that we need an inclusive plan for our city that helps our city grow, that brings us opportunities to every individual and to all the youth, as well as some trades and planning educational opportunities with the college. So there's so much that we could do to grow our city in that way. And I propose that once I'm mayor, I am going to dig into those opportunities with the different departments within Elyria, including the police department, fire department, all those, to see what are their failure modes, what can we predict the kind of violence, gun violence, or could be domestic violence that we have in our city. So we can put in measures that will be proactive and turn those statistics around, but we'll be watching those statistics very closely. Thank you.
You know, gun violence for me is something that's very personal. You know, my first experience with gun violence was when I was 16 years old. A friend of mine who was 15 was murdered, and I've had a number of close friends and loved ones lose their life to gun violence. And so it's something that when I came in office was something that I prioritized and we were proactive about. We hosted meetings at the South Rec Center. We've hosted them now since 2021, the spring of 2021, bringing community partners together to try to resolve this issue. And I would say there's 3 areas that trying to touch on some of the things that my colleagues mentioned. The first is, and it's not an either or, it's an and. The first is law enforcement. So we've gotten a violence reduction grant actually to expand our police force, invest in technology to help them. We've also gotten community grants to work with organizations like the Urban League to help do that sort of core work around youth poverty. But ultimately, I think the role of the mayor is also to provide hope. And right now, you know, we're in a situation in our country where guns are so available, and I'm a part, as you can see here, I have a pin on my shoulder that says End Gun Violence. I'm a part of the Everytown movement to end gun violence. I'm one of the leaders in that group. And you know, what's just so critically important right now is that we fight from the policy standpoint and try to make it harder for young people to get guns. But we have to also provide hope to our young people. And when they don't see a future for themselves, they're willing to throw away what they have. And I think I've tried to do that as a mayor. Amidst all the drama and chaos, I've tried to stay above it all, to try to remain a role model to our young people, to show them what's possible and try to help them stay on the right path and provide opportunities for them. Thank you.
How would you, how would you propose balancing the budget of the city of Elyria when the American Rescue Plan funds, otherwise known as ARPA, run out in a couple of years?
To me first, right?
Yes, sir.
So, so this is where I think where the line starts to get divided between the hypotheticals and the reality of management and leadership. So before I was mayor, I had already been in an executive role, managing a budget, managing personnel, managing marketing, all those things. I'm also very cheap. And so part of what we've done as a city, which I have to say, you know, Mayor Grace, you have that aesthetic eye. You like to decorate. I don't have that eye. I'm more about putting money into the pockets of people and helping people's lives change. So we haven't really wasted money on much. And because of that, we have the largest carryover we've had in 30 years. Aside from the American Rescue Plan Act, our income taxes are up. We've stopped the job loss. You see companies not only staying here, but investing here. So I think in order to maintain a strong budget, I'm picking on my friend Jason here. When we got the American Rescue Plan funds and we had our hearing, they said, one of his comments, which I agreed with, was this should have a return on investment. We should not just put this money out without a return. And that's what we're focusing on. That's why we're doing this revolving loan program. That's why we're putting money into people, because if we can get a return from this money, this is our seed investment for the future. And that's how we're going to balance our budget by keeping, and our budget is balanced, by the way, we have a surplus. But aside from that, we have to keep investing in our economic development, keep our companies here, keep building those relationships, and also make investments in things that have a return. Thank you.
That was a good answer. All right. I really believe in investing in our city, investing in the future. And when I say investing in the future, I'm looking for return on investment. I'm looking for payback time. When we do a demolition of a building, we need to know what's going to go in that place and what's going to go in it quickly. We have a lot of land in our land bank. Actually, we take over the land, take down the buildings, and then it goes into a land bank with the county. We really need to make those parcels of land a revenue stream for our city. We need to make our city make money, not just use money. and that's part of what I will be doing. Thank you.
The mayor said he was cheap, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I understand the intention that you made it. My predecessor was mayor for a period of time, and myself, and we ran the city in a true culture of having to run things we didn't have more than a couple nickels to rub together. We had to watch every single penny to make sure we were stretching it as far as possible, and not been seeing that in the years since I've left. There's so many additional personnel, so many funds being donated to different entities that are beyond the core mission of the city of Elyria. So I would say that is one of the issues that is within city government, is that there is a culture established of spending money far beyond what is being frugal. As it relates to aesthetics, one of the key elements of being an attractive place, an attractive community, is we need to have amenities. We need to be aesthetically pleasing. There's a such thing as a college campus tour. The reason children go to college campuses to tour them, to make their choice of where they're going to school, it's not strictly on curriculum. They could read about that, but they want to see what the aesthetics are. And, the city is no different. We're in competition all the time with communities, and aesthetics is a critical component of it. Brad, I guess finishing up more specifically to your point here, the city is in deep straits right now financially. With the loss of Bendix, those funds have not been accounted for, and there's a great deal of work to economize our expenditures and to raise revenues in terms of economic development, which we'll expand later as we continue this discussion.
Balancing the budget. That's been one of the biggest, most common themes that I've heard over the last number of months. Although I agree with the mayor that we have to continue to work with our legacy businesses that he had addressed, I agree with that 100%. How are we going to balance the budget? The balance of budget is we have to bring revenue and businesses into the city of Elyria. There's no question about that. How do we do that? We've got to develop. We've got to continue to develop Chestnut Commons. We've got to continue to develop and focus on downtown Elyria. And we've got to work with the county and collaborate in a bipartisan way with the county commissioners and the Port Authority for the Midway Mall area. As the Mayor Grace had said, we've not accounted for the 1.8, give or take, million dollars that we lost several years ago when Bendix left. When Bendix left, that was a big chunk of our revenue. There has been no movement on replacing that $1.8 million. I've talked to council, I've talked to the finance director, and the finance director basically said that if we didn't get the $8.9 million of ARPA funds, we would be currently in a $1.6 million deficit. We have a little over $6 million left in our ARPA funds. I've talked to council, I've talked to the finance director about sitting on those dollars the best we can until the end of 2024, see where our revenue is, and then possibly infuse that back into our funds so that we can continue to operate. That would basically buy us 2 to 3 more years of the Bendix loss to allow ourselves and allow my administration to work to generate the revenue to replace Bendix. Thank you.
All right, let's turn to economic development here. This question comes to us from Xavion, a senior at Elyria High School. How will you support local businesses, and what will you do to bring in more food options to the city of Elyria? Start with you, Mr. Brubaker.
Back to me. Okay. It's a great question, and thank you for that. As I alluded to in my previous comment, there are 3 main areas in our city for economic development to bring food, to bring retail, to bring business. The first one is the Chestnut Commons area. That's already being developed. What we need to do is continue to allow that to develop and basically stay out of the developer's way and support them in any way we can to make sure that they're able to develop that property. Again, working with the county commissioners and the Port Authority on the mall project. I know they have requests for proposals out. Those are due the end of October, and then they have 30 days to kind of review those proposals. If I'm elected mayor, I will sit down with them, review those proposals, and kind of get a general idea of what the developers are saying. Thirdly is our downtown area. Somebody asked me, well, everybody says downtown. Previous mayors have all said, I want to focus on downtown, and that's what they start to do. Then something happens and they want to look at Chestnut Commons, they want to Reeser Point because somebody wants to develop there, and downtown is left by the wayside. Then we come back to downtown, and then something wants to go on at the mall. We have to focus on downtown Elyria as a business corridor for our small businesses, our eateries, to draw more people to our downtown. We have a beautiful park. We have the beautiful falls. We should be generating more people coming into the downtown area. Thank you.
Those are the ordinary responses, and we need to fully do all we can as a city to improve upon those options. But at its core, Bendix should be a glaring, red signal to us. Bendix, it was publicly described that they could have stayed. They were at the point of reinvesting in their facility. They were at a point of spending $20 million to stay at their facility in Elyria or spend $60 million to go elsewhere. So as we know, they spent $60 million in that vicinity and moved to Avon. That was a move to speak to the quality of the respective communities. Elyria, in their view, based on their actions, regardless of what they may tell us publicly, their actions said that they wanted to be in a better quality of a community, and that cost was not a variable. The Intel project in Central Ohio, Intel could go anywhere in the country, for that matter, that they would like to go to, but they went to the New Albany area of Columbus, which is the most expensive real estate in all of Ohio to develop. They went there because they wanted to be in a quality environment. And if we are looking and addressing the big picture systemically of Elyria's future, we have to dramatically invest in the city of Elyria, in our community. We have to invest in public facilities. We have to subsidize to the extent necessary to get the commercial businesses that we want, the food businesses, grocery stores, whatever the case may be, to bring those into our community. We need to focus those investments in the downtown. Time's up, so I will elaborate later.
Could you repeat the question one more time for the audience?
Sure, sorry. This question is from Zavion, a senior at Elyria High School. How will you support local businesses, and what will you do to bring in more food options for Elyria?
Okay, so supporting local businesses, that's a responsibility you all have. Instead of taking your money over to Avon or any of our neighboring communities, spend your money here in Elyria, support Elyria businesses, okay? Which means go grocery shopping here, buy your clothing here, buy your food here. Secondly, we have some broken processes and inefficiencies within our city government that makes it very difficult for new businesses to start up a business. They run out of money, or it takes way too long to get plans approved, to get licenses, to get permits. I have this little game that I play with my students that I had in manufacturing, and it's called hot potato. It means as soon as you receive something from someone that requests something from you, you've got to turn it over like a hot potato. You played that game when you were a child, where you have to pass the hot potato quickly. Someone requests a permit, you get that permit back to them very quickly. Okay, I want to instill that type of behavior and work environment within our city. And lastly, imagine a new Elyria. I want you to imagine Elyria that invites tourism, invites people from outside of our city, where they can come and they can be entertained and have new businesses. That's the direction I want us to go in.
I want to address the point that was made earlier around ARPA funds. And, we made decisions to increase our firefighters' wages, our police department wages, our ASME wages. We did those because we had ARPA dollars. Had we not had those dollars, we would not have made those decisions. So that 1.8 deficit that's reflected, that's reflective of decisions that we made because we had ARPA. So I think that's important because sometimes that's a talking point that's used. But I want to talk a little bit about what we're in the middle of right now. And so you heard one of my colleagues mention, and you can't deny, we're in the middle of that sort of transformation. You see the opening up of Chestnut Commons, you see the Sheets, you see the Aldi coming. We have a vision to continue to bring that road all the way around and continue to develop the Chestnut area. We have a great relationship with those developers. I met with the Eaton Township trustees last week. We had a great meeting about the continued expansion. As I mentioned before, we have a vision for Midway Mall. We had a great meeting today with one of the developers who's going to be putting an RFP in for Midway Mall. We have another potential tenant lined up. You saw what we've been able to do when we were able to get the Cleveland Clinic to commit to that location prior to what happened with the county. And then downtown, we're in the midst of that transformation, where we have the largest private investment happening in downtown's history right now. You know, with the esports arena being built, and now we're going to be working with other developers who are purchasing more properties, and a lot of that is because of the programs we put together, the relationships we put together. So one thing is to talk about what you will do, but this is what we are doing right now, and that's why I'm asking for your support.
If elected mayor, and this would be to you first, Mayor Whitfield, do you have any plans to help youth stay on the right path?
So thank you for the question. Again, my first job was when I was 15 years old working for Save Our Children. I was a mentor and tutor for them at 15. And so working with youth is in the fabric of who I am. I also have children that I'm raising in this town as well, and I want to see them be successful. So not only have we expanded our relationships with our nonprofit partners, we use CARES Act dollars, ARPA dollars, community development dollars to continue to expand services for our young people, including child care for families. But we've expanded our Parks and Rec department, and I hope you've all felt that as residents. I hope you felt that, man, there's a lot going on in the parks now, because that's very intentional. We've really tried to activate and change the mindset in Parks and Rec from not just an amenity, but they're a part of the solution to build relationships with our young people and develop them. So that's one of the big shifts we made, and I'm going to continue to fight for our young people. As someone who grew up in this city, I want to see them be successful. I want my kids to be successful. And last thing I'll say, my daughter plays volleyball. I see Camille out there. We got to raise our kids' spirit. We got to have, you mentioned the kids in the lobby earlier, they're just downtrodden. So us as adults, we got to step it up and start loving on these kids and really show, you know, we got their back and cheer them on for what they do. So great job, Camille. Great game yesterday.
Something you might not all know about me is that I have 5 children and I have 14 grandchildren. Okay? I know what it means to reach the youth. I know my kids were so busy. I was busy when they were teenagers. The drama club, the band, sports, they were doing all of those things. We need to not only have programs for those the children, we also need leadership programs for the adults leading those children. We need to have some leadership within our coaches, within our referees, within our drama teachers and our band leaders as well. And we could also have a growing up program where you have those that are older within the schools teaching those who are younger in younger schools. And I think that that's a real good program that we could start here and build leadership within the youth.
Two key elements that need to be addressed is, you know, the time that so many children who do not have the level of nurturing that they need at home, we need to fill that void. And that includes the time after school, to the evenings, weekends, 365 days a year, to fill in the time that they're not getting the proper nurturing, as well as the need for mentoring. One of the programs that I speak of on my website that I feel can be a great vehicle to meet those needs is a boys and girls basketball program. Many of you, or maybe not many of you, but some of you at least I know, were around and aware of the Midnight Basketball program that used to be very popular a number of years ago. Same kind of principle, that you need a hook, you need the vehicle to attract those that are in need of that mentoring and other sets of skills that are provided. What I propose is that we do this through basketball. Basketball appeals to boys and girls alike. We've got facilities through the schools and the recreation centers in our town, so we have the facilities. There's coaches all over, some of whom are in the room here this evening, that we need to tap into their abilities to help nurture these children. And as we develop that program, it'll probably, I'm sure, will spread into other things in terms of the arts, be it musical opportunities. But we need to have that vehicle that attracts the children into our facilities, matches them up with caring adults for that mentoring opportunity. It needs to be a collaboration between the schools, the city, and all resources, the corporate community, again, to provide that mentoring opportunity from after school till it's time to go to bed for 365 days out of the year. We'll rely on grant monies to cover many of those expenses, and there'll be food programs. I spell it out in great detail on the website.
Having coached baseball in this city for 25 years, from everything from t-ball all the way up to college-age kids from all over the city of Elyria, I've had the privilege of nurturing and working with people from all over sides of town, coaches from the south side, the west side, the east side, the north side, to help nurture young people. I even, at the point now where at one time I was coaching children that I coach. Now, I don't know if that means that I'm old, I was around a long time. I have people that I've coached that are police officers, firefighters, bionuclear engineers, doctors, cardiologists. How do we translate that into across the board? When I was growing up in the city of Elyria, every one of our city parks had a box in the park. And that box had activities and games in there. And usually 2 to 3 days out of the week, somebody from the Parks and Rec program was at those pavilions, at those parks, providing recreation opportunities for our young people. We don't have that anymore. Seems we focus on certain things, certain aspects. I agree with Mayor Grace. Basketball is a great avenue, but we need to return, and I appreciate the mayor expanding the youth programming. That was obviously a very good thing, Mayor, but we need to expand it into our parks and get back to allowing our young people, because they don't have the transportation. As Mayor Grace said, they don't have the nurturing parents that maybe I had or some of you had when we were growing up. But we have to return to getting these young people back into our local parks and starting to nurture them at a very close local neighborhood level, and we will get back to where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. By the way, that question came from a student, Stephen, from Lorain County Community College. The next question for Mr. Brubaker. Will you exert your influence on county entities such as the Lorain County Metro Parks, Lorain County Port Authority, the Lorain County Public Health, in doing business in or within the city to ensure that they have equitable policies in hiring?
Well, the answer to that is straightforward, yes. I have relationships with public health. I have relationships with our county commissioners, with our Port Authority. I've met with several of those entities over the last number of months. So making sure and working with them and exert the power of the mayor, who has influence, not necessarily power, to engage them to hire equitable and be able to transition that. I would like to see them hire more Elyria residents. We have young people and we have skill sets throughout our county, but we have young people and skill sets within our own city that are being underutilized, and working with and exerting my influence, if you will, with these county agencies to hire equitably, that would be a goal of mine, and I would certainly endorse that. Thank you.
There's no question that's, the role of the mayor is to be a facilitator. Many of the things are most effective if they're done behind the scenes, out of the public eye. And I think that's one of the areas where, I think the current, approach, I think has been, not the best course, whether it's dealing with the hospital, the county commissioners on other things. I think when you get into public confrontation with these parties that have their own authority, I don't think that's the best path to, win friends and influence people. So I would work quietly with these organizations that were mentioned in the question, dispel, give them the facts, show them the numbers, show them where they can improve, work with individuals, Janine Donaldson with the Racial Equity Center and others, to meet quietly with them and give them, to collaborate with them as to how they can perhaps be more public in their advocacy or whatever approach they feel is most beneficial. But it needs to be a collaborative effort. Identify where things are failing and appeal to their better nature, and then work collaboratively with other organizations to get them to take the action that we need them to take.
I have a bit of a different turn on this question. We have the Lorain County Port Authority. We have the Lorain Port Authority. Why can't we have an Elyria Port Authority, a group that looks out for the interests and the resources of Elyria as well? I'm not sure how to go about that, but I'm sure that if we started in that kind of direction, it would definitely be a way that we could advocate for Elyria with partnering up with the county and with Lorain as well. Thank you.
So before I get to that question, there was just a comment made earlier I want to come back to around the basketball program. And we have created those basketball programs for youth. And if there's anything that I'm going to use this for today is commercials for the city, because one of the biggest challenges we have is communication and cutting through the noise so people know what's happening. So please visit ElyriaParks.com to learn more about the programs. All right, so getting to your question around relationships. And, I pride myself on being able to have relationships with all levels of government, from local, working with council people, to county, working with the Department of Public Health, and working with the metro parks, to state, working with the governor's office, to even federal, working with the President of the United States. So I pride myself on the relationships that I'm able to build and cultivate and work for our residents. Anybody who wants to partner with the city of Elyria to help our residents, I'm for. And I'm going to work with, I'm able to put political stuff aside. I taught that at the Urban League. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interest. So if you're about helping the residents of Elyria, let's partner and get it done. But if you're playing politics, like some county officials have done, including disrespecting our fire chief, including putting Elyria lives at risk by reneging on a deal for radios, when they do, I have to fight for our residents. And I think a part of a mayor isn't just getting along to go along. You want a fighter who's going to fight for you all, who's thinking about you every day and not going to let people take advantage of you. That's the type of mayor I am. And to Mayor Grace's point, so much politics gets done in private. Even though there might be public, even think about what City Council, great example. You might read the headlines, but we're working together every day. Councilman Corbin and I have a meeting on Thursday. That's a Republican. Councilman Davis and I, as I mentioned in the letter to the editor, if you read, we're working on getting utility rates down for seniors. So we're able to work across all levels of government in a collaborative way. But when it comes to fighting for Illyrians, I will not back down for our residents, and I'll die by that.
All right, we're going to change things up here a little bit. We're going to start taking audience questions. We're going to alter the order a little bit. It's going to go Dr. Gobeil, Mayor Whitfield, Mr. Brubaker, and then Mr. Grace, and then we'll go backwards in that. So everybody got that order? If not, we will remind you. First audience question deals with the traffic around Chestnut Ridge and State Route 57. The question is, how will you fix the traffic situation there?
I know there's been lots of studies done already on that traffic area, but I'd like to propose another traffic light, an entrance onto the backside of where Walmart is, that we could actually put another entrance into that area, and that would relieve a lot of the traffic that you have over at Chestnut Ridge. So that whole area back there is going to be developed as well, and we are definitely going to need more than just that one back entrance. So that's my proposal.
Mayor Whitfield.
So Chestnut Commons has the opportunity to be our next Midway Mall in terms from a retail standpoint. When we've talked with those commercial experts, which if you go on my website, frankwhitfield.com, I'll make sure to post that video from one of the commercial real estate experts who's been working on the development there. The way we get the traffic addressed is continue growing. Because we have to work with ODOT and justify the need for another entry point into Chestnut Commons, and we believe we have a plan to redevelop and get that entry point there, but it's going to happen through growth. And I think so many of the challenges the city faced, we have to grow our way out of them. We can't status quo our way out of them. We can't just continue doing what we're doing and think the problem's going to solve itself. So what I've tried to bring to the city is a growth mindset. How do we grow downtown? How do we grow Midway Mall? How do we grow with our youth? How do we grow our programs? That growth mindset is what's needed right now in our city. That's what we're bringing to Chestnut Commons. And I know that can be scary at times because change is scary. And when we're talking about growth, I know it's frustrating, but I know a lot of us sit in the traffic over at Avon Commons and we get frustrated with that turn. Hopefully we'll get a better situation than that. We've invested in a new smart transportation system that'll be able to censor when people are at the stoplights and make sure we're dumping traffic appropriately. But again, our solution, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to grow our way out of our problems. And that's the type of leader I am. I'm bringing a growth mindset to City Hall, and that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. Thank you.
Mr. Brubaker.
Thank you for that question. How do we fix the traffic at Chestnut Commons? It's been a problem for 12 or 14 years now, and nobody has been able to seem to get a handle on it. We have meetings to have meetings to discuss, to have meetings with all the different partners. Meetings and surveys and having discussions got to end. We have to start to act on that. We talked about influence of the mayor. We talked about that earlier. The influence of the mayor has to be stronger with the state and our county townships that are out there and force the envelope to make changes there. I agree with the mayor that we need to develop out there, and we need to continue to develop. We just can't stop development because we have a problem there. However, when you look at a traffic study that was recently done, there are issues that are there. Having a meeting is not going to get it done. Having a discussion is not going to get it done. We've had those discussions. There have been discussions for 12 or 14 years. We continue to develop there. Now we have to take action, put our thumb down as a city, get council behind it, get our law department behind it, and start putting pressure on ODOT and some of these other agencies. And I get it. They don't have to listen to us. I fully understand that. But to continue to grow over there, we cannot just continue to allow the problem to metastasize and get bigger and bigger and bigger, because there's going to be a bigger issue over there, and we're going to have accidents, and who's going to be to blame for that? They're going to come after us. So it's time for action, it's time for getting things done, and that's what my administration will bring. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I heard a lot of words and I didn't hear any answers. One of the proposals I brought out that's detailed in my website is treating Route 57 as the next park, to make it Route 57 the new Kennedy Memorial Parkway, which would include making it recreational trails along the sides, tree line, making it the great entry into our community, but a great place for people to jog and ride bikes, but also make circulating in our community more accessible, whether you're walking, riding bikes, and so on. But one of the elements of that, likely, that might get some oohs and ahs perhaps here, is to lower the speed limit of Route 57. Thank you. Among the limitations of having additional access into Chestnut Commons along 57 is the fact that it's 50 miles an hour. And by being 50 miles an hour, the state limits our abilities to have additional access points into that whole area. By lowering the speed, and it doesn't need to be much, but enough that it brings it down below a certain threshold, we would lobby from the city's perspective, lobby ODOT to allow us to lower the speed limit. By lowering the speed limit, it would allow us to put more access points into that whole development. And the more access points there are, it would relieve traffic to the best that we can. At the end of the day, it's just, a lot of retail, a lot of activity into a limited area. So it's always going to be, a bit of a bottleneck. But the best we can do is the best we can do. And the best opportunity for that is to lower the speed limit of 57, it's particularly in that area, to create more access points. Thank you.
Okay, we've talked a lot about growth. Mr. Griggs, we're going to start with you. how will you attract, and what will you do to attract new businesses to the city when it is in such a bad state and disrepair and neglect?
Thank you. That's the question I came here to answer this evening.
Okay, I didn't plan that.
Can I use my next several questions time, perhaps? No, I know I can't do that. As I mentioned in the Bendix and the Intel description, as well as the city, Elyria's history, we had the best amenities of a city like ours anywhere around. We had a hospital. Few cities like ours in the middle west of the country had a hospital. Elyria High School, the first high school west of the Alleghenies. I can go on and on about the amenities that Elyria had that made us special. They brought Ridge Tool, who's celebrating their 100th anniversary. They started in Ridgeville. That's part of their name. But when they were ready to take off, they came to Elyria. Mr. Moen, when he developed the faucet as he did, he came to Elyria. That's not happening. That paradigm is not happening. What we have to do, and the cornerstone of my proposal, is to take issue 6, which will require a vote of the community. It won't be imposed by City Council or the Mayor. It will be proposed to the community, and that is to extend it from a 5-year temporary, which very much limits the city's ability to use those funds, to extend it to a 25-year period. In doing so, we would be able to borrow in the neighborhood of about $250 million, and from that core of $250 million, we would build public facilities, which would include a state-of-the-art massive community recreation facility, boardwalks and walkways along our magnificent river and waterfalls. We would subsidize to the extent necessary to get the commercial facilities, going back to one of your earlier questioners about food sources or options, whether it's a grocery store or a Pike's Market like in Seattle, our version of that in Elyria, as well as matching grants. There's loads of grants for a lot of which I speak of. And then when we put in several $100 million worth of city investment with grant matching, the public sector will immediately want to be in that vicinity. Most of that investment will happen in the downtown. I'll elaborate more, but it's in our website. Thank you.
Again, thank you for that question. And making 57 a park-like setting didn't work for us 14 years ago, and it's still not working. As far as economic development, I touched about this and how to bring business. Chestnut Commons is going to develop. We have a great opportunity at Reeser Point. We have a great opportunity with the mall. My plan is to focus on the downtown corridor, getting small businesses, cleaning up the downtown, putting in new sidewalks, putting in new lighting, drawing people to the downtown. I had a lot of conversations. There were some businesses in the downtown area that people didn't think should be in the downtown area. Well, you just can't run them out. So what do? You improve the downtown area so that the building owners down there want to invest in their properties, and they're going to bring in the businesses we want to see, the eateries, the small clothing shops, the retail shops. We see them coming in, and those other stores that nobody likes to see down there, those opportunities get lost because the rent's going to go up, and it's going to force those people to leave the downtown area. We have a revolving loan fund. We have loans that are available to our downtown businesses. They're loans. Most of those folks down there that want to invest in the downtown don't have that capital to immediately put into it to get a reimbursement. So why not turn that around and make that instead of a loan, you make that as a forgivable loan. They open up their business. You give them $10,000 to help them up. We had the money sitting there. Help them open up their business, and after 7 years, when things are going well, they've invested in their business, then we can forgive that loan, and that business is more likely going to stay and survive in the downtown area. Downtown corridor is a key to our city right now. Thank you.
Yes.
So a couple things I want to mention. Again, I kind of have to reiterate, we're in the middle of that transformation right now in terms of growth. When we came into office, we had an economic strategy to build a city for entrepreneurs, attract business through our workforce investments, and grow and keep the companies here in Elyria. And we followed through on that promise. As Mr. Brubaker just mentioned, we have the revolving loan program now. During the pandemic, we put over $1 million in the small business grants that our team administered. And I think that's one of the key elements of economic growth. It has to come through collaboration and partnership. That's why we started the Community Development Corporation, so they could focus on downtown, help revitalize revitalize downtown, work with the small business down there, do some pop-up shops. So we're working with some of the property owners to do pop-up shops to give entrepreneurs an opportunity and a shot at growth. But there's one other element that I've learned since I've been in office that's a key to growth, and that's having sites prepared for businesses. Companies don't have time to wait around to see if you have the infrastructure and the sites ready. And so part of what we've been doing, that's why we did the zoning overlay for Midway Mall. That's why we're working on this Chestnut Commons and getting a new sewer installed there. That's why we're trying to pave the way for downtown, creating these downtown demo programs to clear sites so that when an entrepreneur is ready to go, the site is ready for them. So that's been one of the key elements of our growth downtown and where I see us going. Thank you.
Elyria is a beautiful, beautiful city. The things that we have, the natural resources that we have that other cities don't have, 2 rivers coming in, 1 river going out, 2 waterfalls. We've got a beautiful grotto that has so many different cave formations, and they're all full of graffiti. And they're just, the roads that they're on are awful, and the bridges, they're a mess. We need to beautify Elyria in a very simple way. These are low-hanging fruit. These are the things that we could do quickly to make our city better. I propose that we connect our waterfalls. That whole area has been allowed to disintegrate. The viewing areas for the waterfall, for the West Falls, needs to be replaced. And then I want you to think further, is going upriver to the East and West Falls. If we were to rezone those areas and make a boardwalk or make a river walk that goes all the way around, you can connect around where they're the closest is East Street, I'm sorry, 16th Street, and where we have South Park. And if we were to connect that, we'd have about a 3.5 mile river walk. Now, I saw Greenville, South Carolina. I lived in that area at the time that their downtown Main Street looked like ours, our Broad Street. And they started building on their Riverwalk, and as they did, shops started opening up. Different areas started to develop, high-end apartment buildings. It's a pathway to a future Elyria. I just want you to just imagine what that would look like for Elyria.
All right, we're going to combine a couple of questions here because they're in very similar veins. Do you have any plan or program in place to help bring tenants to the business back to the empty storefronts in downtown Elyria? And that's also because it's in the 5th Ward as well. I feel as though the south side of Elyria has been left behind. What are your thoughts? So if you could kind of talk about the 5th Ward in particular.
Reverse order.
Sorry, Dr. Gobil.
Well, I can just continue what I was just saying. Yeah, we want to grow that whole area. So if we were to rezone some of those areas that right now we have blight properties, and we could have them built up. Let me give you an example, okay? Look at the empty parking lot. It's hardly ever used, the one at the end of Washington Avenue, okay? They use it for the jurors, or if they're going to resurface the parking lot for the Elyria buildings, okay? That would be a beautiful place to put a restaurant overlooking our waterfall, or overlooking our river. We need to continue to work on our sewers, our sewer treatment program, so that we can stop putting sewage into our river, start utilizing that river with, there's so many things that we could do with our parks and our rivers. And we could have paddle boats, we could have kayaking, we could have so many different opportunities for entrepreneurs to start small shops in that area. I mean, it would be a very beautiful downtown if we were to be so forward-thinking that we could have this kind of downtown, okay? You wouldn't have the south end would not be underdeveloped or would not be a poorer section of town. It would actually end up being a richer section of town, the part of the town that people would want to be in, and it would have more money in that area as a result of this kind of development. Thank you.
So as a proud South Side native, I have to say, the South Side is definitely a high priority for me. And it's always been this tension because as the mayor, I have to lead the entire city and be focused on making sure that our entire city is lifted up. But when we talk about that issue of equity and we look at the years of neglect on the south side of Elyria, I've had to try to find ways to prioritize it. Again, our focus has been on investing in people. So our Spruce Up program disproportionately impacts folks on the south side because they live in that QCT area. So for those who don't know, that's a program to help people rehab their homes. It's a free grant program to help rehab their homes. We also, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a growing Hispanic population on the south side of Elyria. So again, I've been proactive. We've reached out to our chaplain, Pastor Rosa, and if I'm reelected, one of the things we're right in the middle of is creating a Hispanic resource center right there on the south side of Elyria to make sure those folks aren't being left behind. But ultimately, I think one of the big keys that is going to empower the south side is we got to make sure folks are registered to vote and they vote. I've listened to the conversations. I've seen people count votes and make their decisions based on who's voting. So we have to do our job to mobilize the Southside residents, get them registered, make sure their voice is elevated in the city, and then make sure our dollars are reflecting that from an equity standpoint. I'll do my part as mayor, as I've tried to. But we're going to need to do this as a collective, as a community, really see the Southside as an opportunity. Thank you.
As when I was brought back, when I say this back from the cemetery, it wasn't that I was buried there, but when I was operating the cemetery and the previous administration brought me back downtown to oversee the building department, one of the things was we had hundreds of dilapidated vacant properties in the city of Elyria, and the bulk of them were on the south side in the 5th Ward, parts of the 6th Ward, and parts of the 2nd Ward. And my job was to basically go in and eradicate those vacant properties, those abandoned homes, get them off, and we have a lot of vacant lots. And I did notice out walking in the 5th Ward over on State Street, there are 3 brand new homes that are being built. Those are some of the things we can do, is to market those individual parcels. Some of them are buildable, some of them are not. To people to come in and invest in the south side, in the 5th Ward, and build more housing there. We've got a big housing development on the far south end. One of the other things that I ran into when I was walking the 5th Ward last weekend was what's going to happen when Aldi's goes bye-bye. Southside's going to be a food desert. What plans are in place to bring a grocery store, not a dollar store, not a Family Dollar store, not a Dollar General, not a gas station with the store, but what are the plans to utilize that building or other areas of the south side to bring something so the folks of the south side in the 5th Ward have a place to go, to buy their groceries, to buy their needs. So the plan and the program where we will focus, and I give the mayor credit, he has focused greatly on some things in the 5th Ward. I think we've got to kick it up a notch, and we got to take a look at what are we going to do, how are we going to bring somebody in, and that will be my job as the mayor, as a part of an economic development plan, to bring a store of some sort of food to the south side. Thank you.
Many would recognize that when Elyria was last in its prime, would have been, you have to go back almost to the late 1960s, prior to Midway Mall, leading to the pretty rapid decline of the downtown, as well as the major flooding that took place in Cascade Park. Downtown in Cascade Park, when people came to Lorain County, whether it was working for auto industry, steel, what have you, they came to live in Elyria. They picked Elyria because of our downtown in Cascade Park. There were wonderful amenities that drove people to our community. As the downtown declined, and along with Cascade Park, it not only had a diminishing effect on our entire city, but it had a more dramatic negative effect on the neighborhoods immediately around the downtown. Those neighborhoods immediately around the downtown lost a key attribute that made their houses more valuable. I believe the opposite will ultimately work to their benefit as we make downtown a thriving, exceptional place with $500 million worth of investment within about a 5-year period, as well as more improvements to Cascade Park. It will have a transformative effect on the neighborhoods immediately around those areas. In addition to that, specifically in the south side, besides the south side being right up against the downtown, in fact, if we asked everybody where does downtown end and south side begin, I think we'd get a combination of several different answers from 2nd Street, 3rd, 4th, 5th Street. So those two areas are very much intertwined with one another. One of the things the mayor touched on, he mentioned that developers want land available. We need to aggressively acquire land in those key areas. A neighborhood that is to be improved upon, the path people take to get to that is almost as important as the destination. And the spine of the south side is Middle Avenue. We need to be, as a community city, buy those key properties from 9th Street north to the downtown. We can drive by them as you leave here. You'll see they're very obvious ones that should buy. Some of them have for sale signs. The city should be buying those. Same goes with the property across from Wilkes Villa. The city should be buying those properties to make them available for developers that do low-income housing tax credit projects,
Mayor
things
Grace,
that we need. Yeah, sorry. Somebody had to be the first to be cut off, so, all right, thank you.
It didn't have to be you, though. Seriously, though, we have a question. How do you
Do I have
plan?
5 seconds now? Is that what I'm going to be given? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you're taking away some of your time.
That's what I was thinking, I'm sorry.
How do you plan to support the Elyria School District, and what will be different than what has been done in the past?
Yeah, very good. So, this is a delicate topic because our schools are the foundation, the cornerstone of our community. And so I gave considerable detail to writing specifically about that on my website. You can go in there and read about it. The quality, the teachers, are second to none. The dedication of our school teachers are exceptional. The problem is there's too many children that are in poverty that don't have the resources at home families and districts that are doing well. So, what's the answer to that? We have to make up for that as a community. There are examples, there are similar impoverished school districts in America that overcome it. It requires extra resources. It requires, as I said earlier, I was suggesting the basketball is the vehicle, but there needs to be the mentoring, nurturing opportunities, tutoring and so on, after school, evenings, weekends, that we have to provide all resources. As the mayor, I would do everything I can do to rally those resources from the corporate community, the foundations, the Gates Foundation, the national foundations. I believe we can put together looking at my timer here, a very ingenious program, and we don't have to be that creative. There are districts, as I said, around the country that have overcome the same problems that we're needing to overcome. So I would use the resources of the mayor to rally those resources. It requires almost entirely an effort of the after-school evenings and weekends, because what's going on with our dedicated teaching during the day is probably exceptional. It's those other hours that need the attention. Thank you.
Well, as a proud graduate of Elyria City Schools and family members that graduate from Elyria City Schools, I'm a coach in the Elyria City Schools. I'm keenly aware of some of the issues that are plaguing our young people, and Mayor Grace talked about several of those in regards to nurturing our kids. I was the president and proud to be the president of the Elyria School Board of Education when we started the 5-building project. And if you remember, there was a discussion about Hamlet dropping from 5 to 3 schools. And we met at a church here on the south side of town, and me and my vice president, Anna Karstoffen, were adamantly against 3 complexes. And we fought with everybody to make sure that we got 5 schools that we promised the voters when the issue passed, and we have Hamilton School right down the street. So how does that parlay in working with the city school district? We have to work with this. The mayor has, as we've talked about before, the influence to work with the school district. I have a great relationship with the school district. I served on the board. Several of the board members are still there. we're not doing enough as a school district. When we talked about equity earlier, we're not doing enough equity-wise to make sure that the young people that need the help are getting the help that they need versus spending time in other areas. We have to focus on those young people and those students to get our grades up in this district. You all just saw the reports that came out. They're not very good. That's not because our teachers are bad. Our teachers are very good, but there are things that we can do to help nurture our young people, and getting involved in the school district as the mayor would be one of my things. Thank you.
So education, in my opinion, is the greatest intervention opportunity we have as a society. You have a captive audience of a group of young people for hours, sometimes a lot more time than they spend with their parents. We have the opportunity to get them on a trajectory of change and a positive outlook. So what we've done as an administration is we have a standing meeting with the superintendent where we talk about strategies and what we can do to support the schools. If you talk to your kids, if you have kids here, they've probably seen me at their school, so being visible, I think, is important. Again, being that source of hope and inspiration. As I mentioned before, we've expanded our recreation programs as a catch for after school when students don't have anything to do to be able to come to our rec centers. We started a teen night. We have great leadership at our Parks and Rec for that. And again, I'm using this as a commercial because I want folks to take advantage of this. But I do want to take a step back on one thing that was said earlier. I think a part of what this election has to boil down to, we can't just call out problems, but we need to propose solutions. So the fact that the South Side doesn't have a grocery store, yeah, we know that. What's the plan? What's the plan to get one here? I'm going to get one here. How? What we did, we baked into our agreement when they said they were building the Aldis. We said, all right, here's the agreement, and I got to give a shout out to the law department for assisting with this. We baked into the agreement that they have to help us get a grocery store back on the South Side. So we baked that into policy. The mayor is not just, the mayor is also responsible for policy and advocating for policy. So that's another piece to it. And then that was an interesting history that was just shared about the 5-school piece. Because I remember being in that lobby fighting at the school board meeting as a community that we wanted to see Hamilton School and getting those board members off the fence to make sure it happened. So the fact that it was that easy to even make that decision, when we talk about equity, the fact that it was that easy to say, well, we'll get these 2 schools off, and that was even proposed, we saw that as a problem. So we mobilized as a community. Shout outs to Eric for his leadership on that, and we advocated, and because of the voice of the people, that school was built. So let the people take credit for what happened there at Hamilton School. Thank you.
Education is one of my strong points. So I want to tell you that I was a high school dropout. If it wasn't for the people, the social services, the people that helped me, Head Start, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and various programs. I was a single mom at one point with 4 kids, and I was on all the social services. The day I applied for welfare was the day I applied for college. I've been after I finished school, which took a long time, I was a slow learner, I spent 18 years in college, working full-time, raising a family. The schools are so important to have the support programs around the schools as well. So it's not just enough to support the schools, but you've got to support all of the other infrastructure that goes into the schools as well. And I know that my kids were latchkey kids, and the kids today, they're phone and gamer kids. So we have a whole new part of challenges that go to having quality education. So in order to raise up those scores for our children, we have to have some in-depth programs that are going to help those kids, right from preschool all the way through high school and entering adult education.
All right, well, that concludes the audience question portion of the program. We're going to move to the closing statements now. We are going to go in reverse alphabetical order. So Mayor Whitfield, you are up.
So I'm here, and I'm feeling a lot of emotion here because I've given this job my all. I've used every network I have, every skill set my family has sacrificed. I've comforted families in the middle of tragedy. I've been there on the front lines during every issue in this city. I've showed up for your children. I've showed up for seniors. I've thrown my all at this thing. I've worked with people who didn't like me. I've worked with people who did like me. I've always shown a smile and been positive and tried to make sure I'm doing what's right for the city. Right now, we're at a point where I believe we're at a tipping point as a city. And we can go backwards to the status quo, or we can move forward. I'm running as a champion of the people. I'm doing this because I felt called by God. I'm not doing this because a party called me and asked me to run. I'm doing this because I really want to see our city succeed. I'm raising my children. My wife and I are raising our children in the city. Our oldest daughter is in her second year of med school. You know, I've become a mayor. I know what's possible in this city. I'm living what's possible in the city, and I want to see that for, hold on, I got y'all, no, cutting my time. Hold on, let me get my time. I'm living what's possible in this city, and it really hurts my heart because I've done the best to build bridges. You know, I engaged the former mayor. I got heat about that. Why are you trying to hire the former mayor? Why did you keep Kevin Brubaker? Because I'm all about keeping people together and us getting things done together. And I feel like this election has been one of the most divisive, confusing elections I've ever seen, because it's not about the people, it's about this party thing. And the fact that people say, oh, because he's not a Democrat, they don't even know Kevin. And they're like, I support him because he's a Democrat. And we got to get out of that mindset. We got to get out of that mindset, and if we're going to move this city forward, we got to put partisan politics aside. I do appreciate the nonpartisan idea of Mayor Grace, but I just want us to just know that we are at a tipping point in the city, and if I win, I'm going to continue to pull out the olive branch for folks like Mr. Brubaker and the Democrats and the Republicans. I don't hold vengeance. I don't hold grievances and vengeances. That's up to God. So I'm going to continue to work with you all to move this city forward. Thank you, and God bless. FrankWhitfield.com for more info.
Dr. Gobiak.
I come with you with a wealth of experience in operations and a commitment to effective governance. We do need to fix several parts of our city government. We do need to make it easier to do business with Elyria. We need to make it easier for homeowners as well, and we need our citizens to feel loved. I shared my vision with you tonight. I shared my vision of efficiency and responsible leadership, but especially of innovation and doing things a little differently than we have before. Now, the three other candidates here have all had a chance to work on Elyria and done a pretty darn good job in some cases. I think that if you don't want more of the same, vote for me. Okay, that's one thing I can tell you, because it will be different. Okay? I want to reaffirm to you that I will be dedicated to serving you as the constituents, the businesses, the citizens, and I will apply my experience with large organizations to the city government, and there's so much that we could do to make it efficient and make it easy and ready for rapid growth within our city. Thank you.
Mr. Grace.
A lot of what you heard this evening had to do with the ordinary, doing better at the ordinary. Everyone aspires to do better at what you expect to hear from them. You know, whether it's storefront programs or parks programs, you want the candidate to do a better job than the person before them. Of all of us, Mayor Whitfield's been here nearly 4 years. I was here for 12 years. My 12 years can be summarized in part. The first 8 years, job number one, as far as doing something exceptional in our community, job number one, those first 8 years, was building this Elyria High School. The next 4 years was highlighted by the Great Recession, the worst economy in nearly all of our lifetimes. But in the middle of all of that, I showed that I knew how to assemble the teams of people that we were able to build Elyria City Hall, Elyria Municipal Court, Bullocks Parkway, the East Falls Riverwalk, and I can go on on about a dozen items of which have not been done on that scale since I've left. It's arguable that the people you've seen since, and what's before you, there's a letter to the editor. I want to read the first paragraph. The election of Mayor Whitfield as Elyria's mayor has proven that being youthful, a nice guy, and a family man, they're not enough to lead. Elyria was desperate for change and made a mistake. Whitfield's term has been full of, I'm going to add it here, but it was a giant waste of time that Elyria could not afford. This was written by a supporter of Mr. Brubaker. What he fails to point out is that same argument speaks to the other candidates. There's one before you that has a track record of accomplishment, the magnitude of which is needed in our city. We need massive investment in our city. I've provided a great detailed plan of using the Issue 6 funds on an extended period of time that will facilitate $500 million worth of investment in the center of our town in a 5-year period. It's going to take investment on that scale to turn our community around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank all of you out here tonight and the ones being broadcast, as well as our moderators and our hosts. I'm Kevin Brubaker, and I'm the proud Democrat candidate for the city of Elyria as mayor. Yes, I was called by the party to ask to run, but in my last several months, as I'm out and about, I'm talking to Republicans, I'm talking to independents, I'm talking to Democrats. It's not about whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent in this election. It's about what do you want to see happen with Elyria in the next 4 years. If you want to see Elyria advance in the next 4 years, Kevin Brubaker is your candidate. I've had a history of getting things done in this city. I've worked 14 years of being called at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning by police and fire and other city departments to get things done in this city because they needed somebody to call. Now, that's not the mayor's job, and that would not be my job. But as a history of getting things done, if you want a mayor that's going to accomplish things, get things done, move the city forward, Kevin Brubaker is the candidate. Again, I thank you for your time tonight, and I humbly ask for your support.
One more round of applause, please. We're wrapping this up, and I just want to call your attention to the back of your program so that you can learn more about the YWCA and the Metro Center NAACP and the League of Women Voters and the Racial Equity Center. And I just want to say one thing about equity. Equity is about recognizing that not all of us have started from the same place. But once we've made that acknowledgement, we want to work together as a community to fix that. So I'm hoping that that's what you want to do, and you'll join us in our journey. And I'm going to turn the program over now to Claudia Jones. Thank you.
As Janine said, I'm Claudia Jones, First Vice President of the Metro Central NAACP unit. Excuse me. So on behalf of the sponsoring organizations, the League of Women Voters, the Racial Equity Center, and the Metro Central NAACP in partnership with the Lorain County Urban League, I want to thank each of the candidates for their participation tonight at this forum and for your very thoughtful answers to a wide variety of questions. You have given the voters a great deal to consider as they ponder who will get their votes. Thanks also, give them a hand. Thanks also to Mr. Dickon and Mr. Tucker for their willingness to moderate this forum. Their job of posing the questions, okay? Their job of posing the questions, maintaining decorum, and keeping us on time, along with Ruth with their signs down here, are greatly appreciated. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you, the audience, for showing up and making the forum a success, so you can give yourself a hand. So in closing, the candidates will be in the lobby to answer your questions and share campaign information. There are also snacks, cider, and water available. So please stop in the lobby and mingle and chat. And remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November the 7th. You all have a big decision to make. So again, thank you for coming out tonight.